Good morning, class. Today we will start a new lesson number 5. You will not find the story in your textbook, so all you have to do is to relax and listen to the story very carefully. If you really want to read the story yourself, you will find this story in your Bible. It is in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. And by the way, 1 Samuel is in the Old Testament, so if you are using the Gideon's Bible, you may not find it in your Bible, but you can always read from your own vernacular Bible. If you do so, this will really help you know the story better and write well in your exams as well. Coming back, today we will talk about a little boy named Samuel. He is most probably at the same age of most of you, so you can call him your friend if you want to be his friend. He has an amazing life story to tell each and every one of us. So as we talk about this little boy Samuel, I also want you to note and remember that this lesson title is The Little Boy Samuel. The Little Boy Samuel, lesson number 5. We have been talking about the Israelites in lesson number 4, and there we also talk about Moses as well. After Moses died, Joshua became their leader, and he was also a faithful leader. However, after Joshua died, the people of Israel had no strong leader. They did not do what God had told them to do. They disobeyed God, and they started to worship idols. And so for many years the people of Israel were troubled by their enemies. Now they cried out to God for forgiveness, and God felt pity for them. And raised up men called judges, who were military leaders to fight against their enemies. During this time, there was a family in the country of Ephraim, north of Jerusalem, consisting of Elkanah and his 2 wives, Peninnah and Hannah. Peninnah had children, while Hannah had no children. And Peninnah will make fun of Hannah whenever they went to the house of the Lord at Shiloh to worship. This made Hannah very sad. She cried bitterly and longed for a son, but years after years she remained childless. One year, when the family went to worship God and offer sacrifice at Shiloh, Hannah could not hold back her tears. She broke down and cried, pleading with God for a child. She prayed silently, only moving her lips. "O Lord," she said, "if you will give me a son, I will give him back to you to serve you as long as he lives." The old priest Eli was watching her. He thought she was drunk. When she had finished praying, he rebuked her. "You better stop drinking," he said. But Hannah replied, "No, sir, I am not drunk. I am very heart sore." She told him her problem, and Eli said to her, "Go in peace. and may the Lord answer your prayer." Hannah went off happily and ate some food. The next day, they returned home. And after a long while, Hannah had a baby boy. She was delighted. She named him Samuel because she said, "I asked the Lord for him." When Samuel was old enough to stop drinking from his mother, Elkanah and Hannah took him to the priest at Shiloh. Hannah also took with her 3 bulls, some flour, and a skin of wine to offer to God as thanksgiving sacrifice. When they arrived at the tabernacle, Hannah handed her son over to Eli. "This is the child I prayed for," she told him. "I promised him to the Lord, and here he is to serve the Lord all his life." After they had offered sacrifice, Hannah sang a song of joy and thanksgiving to God, and they returned home without Samuel. He stayed at the tabernacle with Eli and learned how to serve God there. As time went by, Samuel was able to learn some important temple duties to help Eli. He opened and closed the doors, kept the lamp clean, and fuel burning. Every year when Samuel's parents come to visit him, his mother will bring him a new cloth for him. Eli had 2 sons. Their names are Hophni and Phinehas. Hophni and Phinehas. They were very wicked men. They were also priests, but they did not behave like God's priests. They would grab some of the meat for themselves that was to be sacrificed to God before it was given to God. God was not only angry with them, but also with Eli, because he was their father, but he did not stop them from behaving badly. One day, a man of God came to Eli with a message from God. "I choose your forefather Aaron to be my priest, to offer sacrifices and burn incense to me. Why have you dishonored me by letting your sons, who are also priests, do whatever they like? They are treating my sacrifices with contempt. Because of this, both your sons will die on the same day. I will raise up my own priest to serve me, and your family will come crawling to him for a crust of bread." But Eli did not take any notice of the prophet's warning. Samuel served God in the tabernacle with Eli. God had stopped speaking to the people. One night when Samuel was fast asleep near the ark of God, God called him, "Samuel, Samuel." Samuel woke up and ran to Eli. "Here I am," he said, thinking Eli had called him. Eli said, "I did not call you. Go back to sleep." So Samuel went and lay down. Again, God called him, "Samuel, Samuel." And again, Samuel ran to Eli, who sent him back to lie down. When it happened the 3rd time, Eli realized that it must be God speaking. He said to Samuel, "If he calls again, you must answer, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" No sooner was Samuel asleep when the voice called him again, "Samuel, Samuel." This time Samuel answered, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." God spoke a message to Samuel that made him scared. He was going to carry out his judgment against Eli's family because Eli had done nothing about his son's bad behavior. When Samuel awoke the next morning, he was afraid to tell Eli God's message. Eli urged him to tell the truth, so Samuel told him what God had said. Eli replied, "God is God. Let him do whatever he wants to." Samuel grew up in the tabernacle. God was with him, and he heard many things from God, which he spoke to the people. All the people of Israel realized that Samuel was the man God had chose to be his prophet. You see, children, Samuel became a prophet of God, and God used him mightily. One thing I want you all to know is that Samuel was not an extraordinary man. He was just a boy like you when God called him. You see, in the Old Testament times, God will come and call particular people, use particular people like Samuel. But that does not mean that God will not use each and every one of us anymore. Why? Because in the New Testament, we find that Jesus is calling each and every one of us to be part of his ministry. Yes, Jesus is calling you by name, like he called Samuel. The question is, are you ready to respond to his call like Samuel did? The little boy Samuel.